can see that this is not in my everyday use, so I don't have too many images there. But this is an example of a carousel. So in the exercise, your task is to implement a carousel. Obviously, it uses the QML view element, and then the delegate paints a mirror of the image here. So that is rather straightforward, nothing special there. But where to get the images? The images are coming from the gallery. So this example also shows that how the gallery images will be used as a model. If you want to do something to the images now, for example, perhaps we would like to send this image as a Bluetooth or multimedia message to our friend. So if I press and hold, there is a query dialog which asks that do I want to share this image, and actually then I got lazy. I didn't implement. If you press yes, it doesn't send it anywhere. But it could send it somewhere. So we need a model, we need the view, obviously. We have to define the delegate, how it paints that stuff, and then we have to implement a signal handler that if there is a long press, it will show the query dialog. So not any rocket science example once again, but showing some basic interesting things. So now we have only one page. So the structure is very similar to the one created by the wizard. We have a single page. We have some basic properties there because we want to access these properties later. Later in this QML, let's look at that. What is that stuff? This is the right way to lock the orientation. Wait a minute. I'm wondering why it's not true anymore here. Okay, that's important. But really, the locking is the property of the page. Anything what we have seen previously to lock the orientation in Qt code, it's just Blomberg. Because this page overrides that functionality. Okay? In the page we have a black rectangle, seems to be black. We need the model. Okay, we import the gallery model, and that provides us a few elements, for example, the document gallery model. This is the codes. This is all the code which is needed to access certain kind of images in the gallery. So this is really nice to use. Provide the identifier what you want, that is not important. Define the root type. Don't show me. Okay. So this is how you can select that what kind of a gallery stuff you are interested in. Okay, files, folders, documents, text, audio, image, video, and so on. Okay, this time we were interested in images. what are the list of properties what the model provides to you? Remember, I said previously when you have your custom lists, models, that you can provide any kind of properties which are accessed elsewhere. Now I am interested in the URLs because I'm going to load these images. Access the images, I'm interested in the URLs of all the images which are of this root type. I could provide other information there as well to filter out what I want to have. And then I can have a filter. Okay, again there is another element called a filter. So the filter can be anything which is the dynamic property of the queue object. So width is not the property of the queue object, but property of the widget. So the subclass. So all the images whose width is less than 800, all those images will be available in the model so that I can access them using this URL property. This is what we define here, and that's all. Our model is complete. Okay? And otherwise it's trivial. We have a data cage which uses the path view. Let's look at the view first. So here is the path view which defines how the elements will be shown there. Okay, path item count, I didn't emphasize that all, but perhaps you noticed that there are 4 items in the path. Interactive true, click those. Blah blah blah. We define the shape for the path using 3 different paths. Wait a minute, two path line here. From left to the center, from the center to the right. And when the items move in the path, their rotation will change, their height will change. This is what you can define in the path. And let's look at quickly the delegate if there was anything interesting. Yes. So here is for each item, the delegate paints the item, and then there is the event handler that if you long press, it opens the query dialog. Okay? And then the image URI will be the my icon, which is there. Source, which is defined to be the URL, which is the output of the element in the model. So now it seems there are some dependencies which may be difficult to see if you have never made this. Okay, smooth means that we use smooth scaling algorithm. It's slower, but the result is better. Asynchronous loading, which means that there is a separate thread which now loads the images and the UI is not blocked. Just to keep the UI active. And then we have another stage. If you press the mouse, if you notice that the image went a little bit small. If you pay attention, you notice that kind of a functionality. And then we have the reflected image, the implementation details are not important. And finally there is the query dialog. Notice again that we use the theme in demo to show this icon, ask the message, and then of course implement the event handler that now do something, implement the functionality to actually send this through the common multimedia message or whatever you want to do. There is actually, this is not a random thing, this share image. There is actually a share API. So you already have the functionality which you can ask, and the share API will check that what kind of media you have in your phone to share this data. It will check automatically that if there is a Bluetooth, if there is a network connection, multimedia messages, and so on. And if yes, it asks you that do you want to send it as a multimedia message, and then I click that. So yeah. The two familiar list elements again. The first one should load a map based according to the location where you are. And now because the mobility API, the location mobility API works in such a way that it always loads the map from the Ovi store, and I don't have a network connection, and this is a little bit boring. But then, this is hard coded actually, that it's only in portrait. Okay, this shows just a basic button and some text and a gradient color, but that's not the idea. The idea is that it selects randomly from the gallery again. It selects a song, and it uses the uses the accelerometer to randomly select the next one. This is actually, you can see that, or you can hear that. It's my speak. The guys in the previous training, they recorded me. So this is the music saver. Come on, select something else. I will touch the screen. It always starts from the first one. Okay, and now select something else. Again, the idea is that it's rather straightforward with the mobility APIs. Again, we need the gallery, but in this time we are interested not the images, but we want to have the audio files. The UI is very simple, and then we are interested in the multimedia API. We need the API to play back, so play the audio files. Now we need a little bit more properties because we want to show also the album name, we want to show the artist name, so just the basic URL what we have for the images is not enough. So we want from the model a little bit more. And then, then we want to access the sensor to see that if the phone is shaken, then the new song will be chosen. And the point is that all this is extremely straightforward. So main page is now similar what we had previously. So it just has the list model to open the red or the blue page. But now the red and blue page, they have a little bit more content. I won't go to the map view yet because we didn't see anything. I will show this in the slides. So let's look at this music saver. Okay. So this is the index of the song what we are playing back. We start from 0. My first song was this Africa, and then once again there is the orientation block. Okay, provide some gradient color just to show that you can use the gradient colors as easily as you can use them in Qt. And remember that if you have two color gradients, those can be rendered very quickly by the graphics engine. So two color gradients, just meaning, of course, there are more different the color shades, but starting from one color to another color, that is quick. But if you have three colors through which it changes, then you should consider to have already a bitmap, which will be shown instead of the gradient. Then it's faster to show the bitmap than calculate the gradient values. Okay, we saw the document gallery model already. Oh yeah, the rule type is different, surprise, surprise. And now we want to, as a return, we want to have the URL, artist, and title properties. So this is an array of properties what the model provides to us. Okay, so now we have a model. Then we want to have the multimedia part. This is not more complicated at all. So when somebody starts, so remember I had the play button there, so that's where we start the audio playback. So then the signal handler will be called. We will change the artist label and the title label based that what is now the current item audio file from the gallery. So get function gets the audio file and then artist, title, and URL. These are the properties what we were requesting here, provided by the model. That's the multimedia part. Then we have the column where we have first this text that there is no song to be played, not any or artist and title information, which will be replaced by the actual texts. We have a button where, if pressed, we use the gallery to get the URL of the current audio file. Okay, and after that we change the state of the element audio, and that resulted in that this signal handler will be called. So it's really a couple of lines of code. And finally, we have the functionality that if we are playing the music and the accelerometer reading changes, so the signal handler will be called. If it changes enough, we will select randomly a song from the gallery, set the URL to the source of the audio element, and start. So now we didn't implement so much graphics, but as you can see, using these mobility APIs and the elements, you can quickly get together something. But as I told you, I don't like that people say that QML is easy and trivial. Perhaps from the syntax point it is. But quite quickly you ran into problems that I want to do this special thing, and then you think that how that could be done. I want to do this, but it's so slow. How can I do it in the better way to improve the performance? So you ran quickly into challenges, which can be solved, of course. I don't mean that, but it requires that you have to think a little bit. Then there was the icon to navigate back. Questions? Yeah. calorie accelerometer is in the sensors, and the audio is in the multimedia.
Sensors to transfer.
Yeah, the accelerometer.
First thing then, exit give the multimedia kit plugin for Symbian.
For Symbian, no, but this is me. Which means that audio playback you can do with the multimedia bindings anyway, not with the multimedia kit. So that's rather straightforward. Not exactly the same anymore. Yeah. I didn't seem to account that at all. I just use the code, or actually this code example is written not only by me but two other Nokia guys as well. Okay. That's how you write your nice applications. If you want to use the location, there is a bug here. This will work. This must be now this emphasis is okay. I don't say. This must be location 1.2 in Meeple. 1.2 in Meeple, whether otherwise it won't work. And the important element for this there is the map. Okay, map has certain properties like center. You can define in the coordinates. Now this is my office. You can define a circle around the center with a certain radius in meters. So this is 1 kilometer from my office. You can define the zoom level, and then you must define the plugin. And the plugin can't be right now anything else but Nokia. So this is the only plugin which is supported. Which means that this will use the Nokia OBI maps. Okay. And then you can implement and use other properties. Add buttons to increase or decrease the zoom level. Add buttons to show the satellite view, to show the terrain view. Add buttons to show information about the public transport. This was actually one demo which I was planning, but because I was expecting that perhaps I don't have a network, let's not make that. So what we should take into account. This is not the detailed list. Again, there is in this landing page exactly defined that what kind of requirements there are for your application to be published. First of all, what you can publish: active content like libraries, EXEs, so not EXEs in Linux, but processes, so applications, and passive content like paper. You have to run tests and see that what will be the test results related to installation, functional test, robustness, coexistence, usability, and performance. And all of them, these are, let's say, quite intuitive, something that you can understand a proper application should do. For example, installation, you have to have a proper package name. For example, you have to use lowercase letters only, and then you can use the alphanumeric values and hyphen and things like that. And it has to be descriptive and unique in OBI store. And the version information should be correct. You should be able to install, start, stop, and uninstall the program. Uninstall, of course, may sound trivial, but uninstallation must take care that all created files during the program has been executed will be deleted as well. Excuse me, unless they are created by the user. So if you have, for example, some Word processing and user creates a new Word document, perhaps you don't, or user doesn't want that will be uninstalled, although the program is uninstalled. Okay, functional. Content item. Content item now means that whatever you provide, wallpaper or active content, doesn't crash or hang. This means in practice that it should be tested using the tools. And also you can read the log when you run and stop the program and test the functionality. You should read the log that what happened to this process. For example, if you close it, possibly you don't see any errors, but if you look at in the log, it reports that something was not correct. Of course, the functionality should match the Nokia branding guidelines. No excessive violence, pornography, swearing, drugs, alcohol drinking, racism, and so on. Okay, that's quite clear. Application UI should be accessible during phone calls. So when there is a phone call, it should be answered, or it is answered in the test, but the application doesn't worry or concern or anything about the phone call. Still running there. The user can still use that if needed, or if he or she wants. Robustness. Content must not interfere with other applications or with other systems, so for example, it doesn't, or it is not allowed that it uses all the CPUs so that other programs can't run at the same time. Interruptions must be enabled, meaning that if there are messages received, if there are incoming phone calls, those must be able to be notified, and the user must be able to handle. Input field must provide a virtual keyboard. You can decide what kind of a virtual keyboard. Swipe interaction principles must be followed. Okay, this was the close the application as we discussed in the morning. Coexistence. Follow the offline profile, for example. So if the user has set the phone into offline, don't put it in online without asking from the user that do you want, this functionality doesn't work in offline mode, do you want to put the phone into online, so that the user knows that whether he's on or not. The program doesn't, or the content doesn't interfere with voice calls. This is what we discussed. And then user must not be prevented to make emergency calls. Okay, that's quite obvious. This we discussed once in a few elements for Pingly usage. And then performance. Lights off. So if your program is running for the long time, it doesn't keep the display background light on. For example, the keyboard. Okay, there's no keyboard, but if there were keyboard lights on, if the CPU goes into the lower power mode, it will remain there if the application is in the background. And these are something that you have to test. We see the energy profiler, see that how many percentages of time your application was there in the light scope